All right, now we're going to take your questions from Twitter. The first one from @BillyBlazington. I would ask Slagle if the Brown contract is so terrible this offseason.
Oh yeah, I did make many statements about that last year. Well, no, I think look, he played up to where he needed to play. So I think at this point now, the Brown contract is fine.
Okay. Next question from @Lindros2Kings. Do they let anyone be part of the LA Kings media, or were you guys just lucky?
I'll take that one.
Yeah, please.
Because a lot of people have a lot of opinions about my presence in the Kings media. No, they won't let just anybody, but luck certainly helps.
The next question from...
That was from Lindros to the Kings?
Yeah.
Oh, that would have been awesome. That's a deal that never happened.
I know.
That would have been great.
Seriously. Some people still can't stop talking about it. Next question, Bruin King IS. Mike Stothers, is he considered the future head coach of the Los Angeles Kings as it stands now?
No. Stothers basically removed himself from consideration for the assistant job when the Kings brought Stevens in and they were looking for assistants. He basically doesn't want to leave Ontario unless there's an NHL head coaching job that opens. And so you would say, well, then why wouldn't he be expected to be the heir apparent? I just think that if this regime doesn't work out, if John Stevens and the group, if it doesn't work out, I think they would want to go a completely different direction. Mm-hmm. And I just don't think that Stothers will get that opportunity. Fantastic coach, and the organization loves him. He's done tremendous things grooming their prospects. And, he's done just a fabulous job at the American Hockey League level. But I don't see him behind the bench in the NHL, with the Kings, excuse me.
Okay, next question from @PuckFollower. With the Kings having drafted 2 years in a row in the first round, Clegg also looking like a first-round talent, do you think they can spare next year's first-round selection for just a rental? What potential rentals would be worth a first-round pick?
And the only way you do that is if you really think you're going to win the Stanley Cup. Because the last thing you want to do is trade a first-round pick, and that's the future. And the Kings have been doing that for a long time, chasing around a lot of stuff. They did it way before they won the 2 cups, and it hurt them for years and years and years. So obviously you're going to keep those picks unless there's something really there that you have to have, and you really think you're going to win the Cup.
And if you're contending, you're at 25 to 31. So I think that I would forego a first-round pick. But I have to be really much more sure. Look, the Sekera trade, I think you could talk about the Lucic deal all you want, and there were multiple assets. The Sekera, and John talked about this, that was a panic move.
Sekera one I like less because it was, to Dennis's point, that panic move and giving up that first-round pick, and they overplayed their hand. They thought they had a relationship there. They thought they were going to be able to re-sign the player, and it didn't work.
He's in the first-round talent, John.
Yeah, I would trade a first-rounder this year at the trade deadline because I think they do have a deep enough prospect pool that if they had to part with one, they had to. Right. But it has to be the right move. And Dennis, it has to be that first-round talent. It's not for a Sekera.
No.
You put a Pacioretty in there. You give me somebody who can go in the top line, somebody who's truly going to replace a Muzzin or Martinez, but I don't think they would trade a first to get a defenseman.
But the prospect pool is one of the terrible MacGuffins of hockey conversation. Draw me a straight line between organizations that never gave up prospects that won the Stanley Cup over the last 15 years. I don't think you can, there's only been, Pittsburgh, Chicago, LA, Boston made it to a couple finals. Mm-hmm. And now we're getting back into 2010, 2011, right, before we start looking at Washington won it this year, but Washington, again, was considered a contender for years. 5 years ago, we were talking about how the cupboard was bare. 10 years ago, we were talking about how the cupboard was bare. It doesn't take very long to restock the cupboard.
They've done it, though. They've restocked.
No, that's my point,
in a couple of years, they did it, and that's why they can...
No, and that's why I say, if Erik Karlsson is available as a rental, and Ottawa is pushed up against the wall, and they'll take a first-round draft pick, and that's it for Erik Karlsson.
That's
I understand they won't.
Well,
but I'm just saying, if there's a player like that, then the Kings would be stupid not to do it, because every first-round draft pick is still a coin flip, no matter whether it's Drew Doughty or Alexander Daigle.
But you have to build through the draft. Every team that's won the Stanley Cup in the last few years, all their key players, for the most part, came through the draft. L.A., Pittsburgh, Chicago, all.
And it's more important now in the cap era.
Exactly.
More important now than it's ever been.
To
Well,
John's
with this
point,
core, though,
yeah.
like
Yeah.
the time is now for this team in terms
Right
of
now.
winning the next 2 to 3 years. So I have no problem giving up a 1 for Pacioretty.
So you'll be as a Kings fan, if you, let's just say you give up a bunch of draft picks and you go all in for the next couple of years and they don't win it, and then you're going to be really awful for a while after that. You're good with that?
I think that's the reality.
You see, I disagree. I don't think that is a
But
reality
I
because
do.
that's what they've done over the last couple of years by protecting those assets the last 2 years, by making sure that there's another wave of players. And why I wouldn't trade an Anderson Dolan is that that's the next wave. That as Kopitar ages out, as Carter ages out, there is a wave of players that are coming up behind them. And it's not a perfect science, and there's no guarantee. I get all that, but you have to, Jesse, have a pool of prospects, 4, 5, 6 players that you think, man, if just one of them hits, I'm good.
I think we're violently agreeing.
That's no fun.
From different sides of the conversation. My question is this: you have Carter and Kopitar, neither of whom are young, but neither of whom are anywhere near, I would argue, the end of their career.
They're in their primes.
And you have Drew Doughty and you have Jake Muzzin, right? And so at some point, you reach a point of diminishing returns where if you have 6 top-end center prospects in your pool, there's not enough spots for them, right? Like,
But they don't have the 6.
well, but for example, like I referenced earlier, the Athletic is doing this prospect grading pool, and look, it's one guy, and everybody can disagree, and that's fine. But the Kings have not yet been named, and they're getting into the top 10 now. So obviously, the Kings prospect pool is significantly better than it was last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. We look at guys that they've gotten rid of over the years. You know, Thomas Hickey. The reason nobody cares that we got rid of Thomas Hickey is because they had better options than Thomas Hickey.
Well, I don't know if I agree with that still on the Hickey move. You don't put a first-round player who should have been in the NHL on waivers. That's not putting Michael Mersch on waivers. That's putting Thomas Hickey on waivers. You find a way to keep
But that's
Hickey.
a specific asset management move. The reason nobody cares that Berube was lost to waivers was because we have better goalies. The reason nobody cares that Brian Boyle, Tambellini, Purcell, Tubert, Jordan Wheel, right? The list of players that the Kings have traded over the years in order to acquire higher-end talent. The reason we don't care about those guys is because Dustin Brown, Anze Kopitar, Drew Doughty, Jonathan Quick, Jeff Carter, Tyler Toffoli, Tanner Pearson, Alec Martinez, those guys aren't going anywhere. Or maybe one of them might be going somewhere in a year from now. But for the last 5 or 6 years, those were not spots that were up for grabs. And now you have Velarde, Kempe, Iafallo. That's just a whole other realm. So if you trade a first-round draft pick next year to improve the team right now, who cares?
So to summarize, yes, we would trade a first-round pick if we can win a Stanley Cup, but not to just make the playoffs. The last question comes from @CKalzewski. I know that guy. When will the Kings ditch their hideously designed jerseys and go for something that actually contains a color not named black, white, or gray?
Never.
Considering those are my 3 favorite colors,
Yeah, I don't think that's happening anytime soon.
No offense to the panel who's wearing all black.
Yeah, it's not going to happen anytime soon. You have president of hockey operations or the business, the president of the team who loves those colors, and
so that's
you
that.
wore those colors.
Yeah,
I just like the throwbacks, the foreign blue and gold. I always loved those.
There's been a lot of discussion over the last 5 years of adding a third jersey, which was going to be the foreign blue and gold, and it largely didn't happen because they ended up in a couple of outdoor games and they created those stadium series jerseys.
Will they have a third jersey this year?
They're supposed to have a third jersey this year, but it's yet to be revealed, so we're kind of running out of time. So if not this year, then probably next year. And there is a lot of excitement about a third jersey that would be foreign blue and gold. But from what I've heard, the next one is not blue and gold. It's more of the gray and silver.
So more importantly, if they go back to the
What's that?
I may or may not have also heard that.
The gray and silver. Yeah.
Fantastic.
One quick thing. If they go back to the foreign blue and gold, is it predominantly blue or predominantly gold?
Foreign blue would be the
Okay,
preference.
good. I can go with that.
Purple, Earl. Purple.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, when did they ever wear blue?
And we had one final tweet from @Bailey LA Kings. My biggest concern is Bailey is not getting enough mentions in this show. So there you go, Lion. Thank you, panel. It was a pleasure.